if you want to woo your wife, you don't hand her an owner's manual. You hand her a love letter. And you make the content of that love letter something that's going to resonate with her. The content of the love letter that she found was cooking related. Oh, babe, I love your cooking. That kind of stuff, right? I don't know. Young married guys, we're kind of dorks sometimes. But it worked. The point is, there's different ways to write things down, right? And the different ways help communicate the ideas in different ways. So today, we're actually going to look at Scripture, and we're coming to our first big genre change in Scripture. Genre is a fancy literary word that just means style of writing. Okay, this is our first big stylistic change in the Bible. It showed up earlier, but it wasn't big enough for us to highlight. This is a good chance for us to highlight. We're going to be in Genesis chapters 48 and 49 today. 49 is by far the biggest highlight change. This is the biggest genre change. Chapter 49. And so let's just look at the Bible right there. Let's open it up. What page is that on? Anybody know? Anybody there is like 45 maybe? What, 42? I like it. Let's look at page 42. And this is going to be Genesis 49. And I just want us to see a couple things. Because whenever we're reading through the Bible, it's important for us to know what genre we're reading. Because if we read a love letter in the same way we read an owner's manual, we're going to miss out on what's trying to be communicated by the author. Right? We want to understand what God is saying, and part of the way is to understand how he is saying it. Question, yes? This is still our God Meant It for Good series. Yes, that's a great question. And actually, our first point on the things today is intro to poetry. What? This sounds like a classroom. I didn't sign up for class today, Dan. I know. Bear with me. The first part of this is going to feel a little bit like a classroom setting. Because we need to understand this aspect of how the Bible is written. This is important. So look at Genesis chapter 49. Just look at the pages. What do we see that's different? When you look at the text, who notices there's something different between Genesis 49 and if you turn back a page, Genesis 47 and 48, right? So if you turn back, you see the text looks different. What's the difference? Just call it out. What? It looks like a poem, right? It looks like a poem. It looks differently. Okay? He goes, man, Andrew, I don't know what a poem looks like. That's okay. What else is different just by looking at it? Do you see it? What's that? It looks like it's more split in half, right? Like it's like the spacing is weird. Do you see how on the previous page the words go all the way across? Do you see that? But then when we get here to Genesis 49, the indentations are weird. They're different. Our English translators have really helped us out. This is a huge thing. Whenever they run into poetry, they often, almost every time, put it in this form. They're going to space it differently. If you turn to the middle of the Bible, I'm going to do this blindly, let's see if we can hit it, to Psalms, holy cow, I got it. That was pretty cool. To Psalms, the whole thing is in that kind of indentation, right? Because the whole thing is poems. It's all poetry, Psalms is. Proverbs is the same way. Almost all of Proverbs is poetry. And so that's just a different style. Here's a couple styles. We've got a history style. That's what we've been reading, right? That's more of a historic style. It's just recounting what's happened. We get into Paul's writings. That's a clue what it is. What are Paul's writings? Whenever we get to Philippians and Colossians, do you know what those are? Those are letters. And so they read differently than poems. Letters read differently than history. There's just a different style. It's a different, what was that word that we used? Genre. It's a different genre in the Bible. So they read differently. You know what's a really crazy one? If we turn all the way to the last book of the Bible to the book of Revelation. And this one's might be the wildest of all genres. This is apocalyptic genre. It's just crazy. I can't wait to get there. It's gonna be fun. I was really scared about it, but I recently really worked on Revelation, and now I'm excited about it. So, but it's a different genre. It's a different way that we have to read these things. But the words are the same, and I get it. And that's why we just have to be aware. So today, the genre that we're going to look at is poetry. Now, how do you read a poem? That's something that we have to understand. So here's a couple things. Let me find my notes because it's crazy. If you would like a copy of this piece of paper, this is a one-sheet document that I did not write myself. It came straight out of a book. But if you would like a copy of this afterwards, just to help you understand biblical poetry better, let me know, and you can have a copy of it. But we're just going to touch on a couple things. So here's the thing. For us, poetry is usually a pattern of balanced lines, regular stress, and rhyming. It's rhythmic. Our songs, that's a form of poetry, right? A love letter, roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you, right? There's a cadence to it, a rhyming to it, right? And that's how we recognize poetry. Hebrew poetry is very different. Hebrew poetry, it's not nearly as obvious to us. That's why I'm so thankful that our English translators like give us this visual clue, like, oh wait. This might be a different genre. This might be poetry. Hebrew poetry, there's three primary characteristics. Three of them. The first one is parallelism. The second one is meter. And the third one is grouping of lines into larger units called stanzas. You say, man, Andrew, that's really detailed. I know. You should get this piece of paper after service. It's pretty cool. Parallelism is the most prominent. And we're going to focus a lot on that one today. The other two, they're just not really the most prominent in this poem. And so we're gonna skip over those because this is a sermon, not a class on poetry. All right, parallelism. Here is some things about Hebrew parallelism. Now, just to be fair, it's a lot easier to recognize Hebrew poetry in the original Hebrew. Right? If you read it in the original Hebrew, it's a lot easier to recognize. That takes years of dedication to be able to read it in the original Hebrew. It's not practical for most of us. So we have to recognize it in other ways. And again, our English Bibles have done such a good job of indicating it. All right, the main feature, the predominant feature of Hebrew poetry is parallelism. And there's three types of parallelism, and we're going to look at all three types. The first one is synonymous. That means it's using things that are like the same or similar. The next one is antithetic. That means where they're like opposing things, and they highlight an idea based on opposition of ideas. And then the third one is synthetic, and that's going to be used more in a linear fashion. Okay? So the first one is synonymous, where the two things are kind of the same. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. That's synonymous parallelism. Roses are red and violets are blue. Those are similar things. Sugar is sweet, and so are you. Those are similar things, and we're trying to make a point out of it. So let's look at an example of synonymous parallelism. Turn with me to Psalm 49, verse 3. And we're gonna jump around in Psalms just a little bit before we get back into Genesis, because I want us to be able to see this. So Psalm 49, verse 3. I want us to be able to see this in the wild. All right, everybody there? Everybody there? It's okay. We got time. It's on page 473, the top of 473. This is just a form of synonymous parallelism. And the idea is the first line says something, and the second line says something nearly identical but not quite. And when you put the two lines together, it colors or shades the meaning and gives us a better understanding of what the author is trying to say. Okay? So 49, verse 3, at the top of 473, it says, my mouth shall speak wisdom. The meditation of my heart shall be understanding. This is synonymous parallelism. The lines are not the same, but they add to the understanding. Their slight differences help us add to the understanding. So, my mouth shall speak wisdom. I want to speak wisdom, right? And the meditation of my heart shall be understanding. Man, you put those two things together, and it's like, wow, I really, as a human who loves Jesus, I really want to make sure that I'm pursuing wisdom. And there's an aspect of wisdom that is understanding. And there's a relationship between those two things and what my heart meditates on and what comes out of my mouth. And there's a relationship, and somewhere in that relationship has to live the pursuit of wisdom and understanding. Let's turn over to Psalm 37, verse 21. Does that make sense? Do you see the synonymous parallelism? Do you see that a little bit? Let's look at Psalm 37, verse 21. A couple pages to the left, page 466 at the very bottom. Psalm 37, verse 21. I said 37, 31, but it's 37, 21. This is antithetic parallelism. This is where the first line says one thing and the second line says something totally different. It says the opposite, right? Verse 21, do you see it? The wicked borrows but does not pay back, but the righteous is generous and gives. Do you see how those two things are opposite? Do you see that? The wicked borrows and does not pay back, but the righteous is generous and gives. These are opposite things that, again, the author could say it really dry in more of an owner's manual style, but he doesn't. He does it in a poetic way. And by using poetry, it increases the beauty of the understanding. It increases the depth of the understanding. All right, let's look at synthetic parallelism. This is the third one, Psalm 133, verse 1. So turn way to the right. And we're going to be at like page 519, I think. 519, Psalm 133, verse 1. Like, man, Andrew, this is a lot about parallel. I know. It's important, though. It's important. Psalm 133, verse 1. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. With synthetic parallelism, it takes a story. It's more linear. How good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. It develops the idea in more of a linear fashion. Right? It's a good thing. We could just say, hey, it's good when people are unified. That'd be a pretty robotic way of saying it. But this is a sweeter way, a fuller way of saying it. It says, how good and pleasant. Man, I want things that are good and pleasant. Don't you want good things that are good and pleasant? Don't you want your life to be full of good and pleasant things? Man, I do. How do we do that? Well, here's one way. One aspect of a good and a pleasant life is when brothers dwell in unity. What a beautiful picture. All right, let's turn back to Psalm 49. Nope. Genesis 49. That is our intro to poetry. Now, how do we get one of these pieces of paper that will help us understand poetry in a little bit better way? How do we get this? You come to me after church and say, can I have one of those pieces of paper, right? And then you get one of these, and they're really helpful. How do you get it?
You come to Pastor Andrew after church.
That's right. You got to come and ask for it. I'm not going to chase you down. I don't know who needs it and who doesn't. So if you want it, you got to come and get it. That is our intro to poetry. Now, let's get into the text. You ready? This is point 2 is Jacob blesses his sons. And we're going to see poetry. We're going to see poetry all throughout this text. Right? Well, let's just start in chapter 48 because we got to get a little bit of context here. Now Joseph was told, after this, Joseph was told, behold, your father is ill. So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and it was told to Jacob, your son Joseph has come to you. Then Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed, and Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me and said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply, and I will make of you a company of peoples, and will give you this land to your offspring after you for an everlasting possession. Do you see the promise of God that Jacob is recounting to Joseph? He's starting out the conversation with, this is what God told me, this is what God promised me. He's going to do this. And there's two main things here that he's communicating. He's saying, one, God promised me that I'm going to become a company of nations. Many people are going to come from my loins. Many. And Jacob is the first patriarch that can actually start to smell that. Right? His dad just had a couple sons. His dad's dad had like one son. But Jacob's got 12. He's seeing fruitfulness start to take root. He's like, God is doing this, but there's a problem. There's a problem. Where are Jacob and Joseph right now? They're in the land of Egypt. That is not near Luz. That is not near the promised land that God promised Jacob that he would inherit and that his descendants would inherit. It's not near it. But Jacob's focus is not on Egypt. Jacob's focus is on the promise of God. Jacob is saying, hey, look, let's just start this conversation out by remembering what God has said he would do. That's what Jacob's saying. And so he starts this out. And then Jacob, I love Jacob. He's just nuts sometimes, right? Then Jacob looks at Joseph. In verse 5, he says, and now your two sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you, they're mine. Wait, what? Jacob? He's not just stealing his sons. It's not kidnapping. He's saying, they're mine, and I'm going to bless them with an inheritance equal to your brothers. This is Jacob's way of actually giving Joseph kind of a double portion. Joseph's always been his favorite, always. And Jacob's like, look, I'm gonna give you an inheritance, but I'm gonna count your two oldest ones. They're gonna be mine. They're gonna get an inheritance among my sons. They don't have to wait until you die. They don't have to get just a portion of your portion. They're gonna get a full portion as if they were mine. And Joseph's like, yeah, that makes sense, Dad. So they go on, and let's skip down to verse 14. Now let's go to 12. Then Joseph removed them from his knees. He had the boys on his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and he brought them near him. So Jacob is getting ready, Jacob or Israel, he's getting ready to bless the boys, and Joseph's setting them up. He's positioning them to receive the proper blessing. The oldest one is going to be touched by Jacob's right hand, because that will confer symbolically and figuratively, that will confer the greater blessing. The younger one gets the left hand, still gets a blessing. But we're going to keep the birth order proper. So Jacob sets them up for that. Or Joseph sets them up for that. In verse 14, and Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. Jacob's like, yeah, I hear you, Joseph. But how many times have we seen the younger receive the better blessing? Even though the older son was supposed to and should have, that's just not how God works. Which is sad, because I'm an oldest son. So I'm like always kind of bummed out about that. But God here is working. He's working in a different way. And he's using Jacob, and he's saying, look, I'm gonna bless the younger one as if he's the older one. Not because of anything he did, not even because of his station in life, but just because that's how this blessing is going to flow. So he crosses his hand, and Joseph's like, wait. Verse 17, when Joseph saw that his father had done this, it displeased him, and he took his father's hand. He's like, wait, Dad, you messed up. And so he's like trying to undo it, and Jacob's like, no, this is what I'm going to do. Verse 19, but his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a great people, and he shall be great. Nevertheless, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations. So he blessed them that day, saying this, by you Israel will pronounce his blessings, saying, will pronounce blessings, saying, God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. Jacob is blessing these boys in such a way with so much prosperity and goodness that their names are going to become synonymous with blessing. Right? If I want to give you, Dan, if I want to give you a blessing, and if we were both Israelites back then, I would say, hey, I hope it goes so well. I hope that you're like Ephraim and Manasseh. That's how much good I want for you. Right? It's like, man, I wish that you could shoot like Reggie Miller. That's how we said it back in the day here in Indiana, right? He was the guy. Forget this Chicago Bull Michael Jordan nonsense. It was Reggie Miller or die, right? But it was you pick your best. You pick your greatest hero. You pick the person with the most success. You say, I want you to have that success. That's the blessing. That's the blessing that Jacob is giving to Joseph's sons. He's saying, you guys are going to be so blessed. You'll be so blessed. The people are going to use you as the standard of blessing. Chapter 49. Then Jacob called his sons and said, gather yourselves together that I may tell you what shall happen to you in days to come. Assemble and listen, O sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel your father. And now Jacob starts down a path. He starts blessing his sons. He's going to bless all 12 of them. And we're going to notice some of the birth order and some of the changes that he makes even in birth order, right? So I'll point that stuff out as we get to it. Verse 3, Reuben, he's the firstborn. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and the first fruits of my strength. It's a beautiful thing. Reuben should get the best blessing. He should get a double inheritance just because he's the firstborn. That's the way it should be. He should be in charge of everybody. That's the way it should be. You're my firstborn, my might, and the first fruits of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. Unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence. Because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. You don't get preeminence even though you are my firstborn. You don't get it. Why? Because you slept with Bilhah. We skipped that story when we were preaching through Genesis. Go back and read it. It's in the 30s somewhere. Reuben defiled his father's wife. It's a great sin. Because of that, he does not get the blessing of the firstborn. He was unstable as water. He wasn't reliable. Verse 5, Simeon and Levi, that's sons number 2 and 3. These are, so far we're still at all of Rachel's kids. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. Let's see on this one, let's see if we can see the parallelism, okay? Look at it. Let's look for parallelism. It's more obvious in this one than some of them. Verse 6, let my soul not come into their counsel, O my glory, be not joined with their company. Do you see how that's synthetic parallelism? Synonymous parallelism? That's the right word. That was close. That's why you need this sheet. It's really helpful. Do you see how that's synonymous parallelism? Let not my soul come into their counsel. I don't want to be in their counsel. Oh my glory, be not joined to their company. I'm not going to be with them. I don't want to have fellowship with them. Dad, you're supposed to be blessing us. That doesn't sound like a blessing. For in their anger they killed men, and in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen. Do you see the parallelism there? Do you see it? Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. A couple of things about this one. Do you see the poetry? Can you see it? Is it obvious or not? A little bit? A little bit? Let's play it out. There's 4 groups of 2 lines here. The first 2 lines, let my soul not come into their counsel, my glory be not joined to their company. That one, notice how that one is reflected again down in the 4th one, in the second half of verse 7. So here he's saying, I don't want to be in their fellowship. At the end of it, he's saying, I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Not only do I not want to be with them, I'm going to scatter them. This adds some weight. This poetic device that he's using adds some weight to the meaning. Let's look at the two middle sections there. For in their anger they killed men, and in their willfulness they hamstrung oxen, right? That was what they did. But then it describes it in the second set. Cursed be the anger. Why? Because it's fierce. Anger's fierce. And their wrath, for it's cruel. He's coloring it. He's adding color. He's adding shade to it so we can see it even more. Why is it that Jacob is saying, hey, I'm going to divide you in Israel? Why is it that he's saying you guys are cursed? It's because of their uncontrolled wrath. They saw red and executed an entire town. There was no mercy. Their complete lack of self-control earned them a spelled out curse in a time when they should have been getting a blessing. Loved ones, we have to step back. Do we ever lose self-control? Do you know what I'm talking about? With little kids, one of the things that we talk about as we're raising our kids is like, well, we're going to have self-control in that. We got to teach. We're teaching our young ones self-control. Loved ones, some of us, we struggle with self-control so much. Man, I just want to be self-controlled. One of my kids this week called me out. Little punk. Dad, I think you're addicted to cheese balls. So I put the lid on it. It's like, well, you can't have them either. But Dad! Okay, you can have a few. That's a silly thing to lose self-control of, but it shows a character thing that we got to be careful of. Both Reuben and Simeon and Levi lost part in their blessing because of a lack of self-control. Reuben was unstable as water. Whatever was going on in his life that led to him sleeping with Bilhah, he could not overcome it. He couldn't overcome the temptation. These two guys, when their sister was defiled, they lost control of themselves. And in their anger and in their cruel wrath, they murdered, they slaughtered an entire town. And it wasn't just that they went off the handle and went after him. They schemed. It was vicious. It was cruel. It was fierce. The poetry helps us to see the emphasis of it. Verse 8, Judah. This is the 4th son of Leah, the unloved wife. Right? Jacob's 4th oldest son. Judah is the one who slept with, was it Tamar? Right? Tamar was supposed to, he was married to his oldest son. His oldest son was wicked. Judah's son was wicked. What a bad father. He was so wicked that the Lord killed him. So Judah gave Tamar to his next oldest son. And that son was so wicked that the Lord killed him too. So Judah's like, well, let me give you to my youngest son when he gets of age. And Tamar was like, this is never going to happen. After years. The boy was of age, and she's like, you're never giving him to me. This isn't going to happen. And so she dressed up like a prostitute. Remember that? And Judah slept with her, and she got pregnant. And this is Judah. Verse 8, Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down before you. This is Judah. God has selected who is going to have the rights of the firstborn. He selected who's going to be the ruler in Israel. He selected who's going to be preeminent. Reuben lost it. Simeon and Levi lost it. But even in God's mercy, he's giving it to Judah. Verse 9, Judah is a lion's cub. Does this mean that Judah is like a Pokemon or something? Right? Is that what it's talking about? That's not what it's talking about at all. Remember, this is poetry. And we have to read it as poetry. He's not actually a lion's cub because it's poetic. We understand that the literary device say he's like a lion's cub. There are aspects of a lion that are going to be true of Judah. He's a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion. And as a lioness, who dares rouse him? There's a power. There's a stateliness to Judah that Israel is blessing him with. There's a difference between the promises of God and the blessings of a father. Okay? There's a difference. The blessings of a father should be more understood as, may this happen to you. The promises of God are, this will happen because God's going to make it happen. There's a difference. There's a nuance. There's a nuance. How do we tell the difference? Sometimes we can't tell right in the passage. We have to look ahead in the Bible and see what plays out, and then we can tell the difference a little bit that way. Right? Judah, this is a promise from God. This is more than just a blessing. Look at the next verse. You ready? Verse 10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him. And to him shall be the obedience of the peoples. Binding his foal to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He has washed his garments in wine, and his vesture in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. The scepter shall not depart from Judah. That's the ruling scepter. That's the lineage of the king. What king are we chasing through Scripture? Jesus. We're watching where Jesus comes from. This, we've been talking about, and I wish my iPad was there because I was going to draw it out. It's going to be super cool, right? The first part of the really big part of the funnel when God told Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden in Genesis chapter 3, he said, hey, you've been deceived now, and sin has entered the world, and you guys are now slaves to sin. But you'll have a descendant who will strike the head. It will crush the head of the serpent, and the serpent will strike his heel, and there'll be this battle between, but the offspring will win. And so all we knew was this massive funnel, it's going to be a human. Right? And then within that funnel, God starts using male pronouns. So it's going to be a male human. So we got like half the human race. And then God comes to Abraham in Genesis 12 and says, hey, it's going to be one of your descendants. All nations will be blessed through you. And we see this funnel start to narrow. And then it's going to be through Abraham, it's going to be through Isaac. And then with Isaac, it's not going to be Esau, it's going to be Jacob. And now with Jacob, we got 12 sons. It's going to be one of the 12 sons is going to produce the family line that's Christ. And here we see it's going to be Judah. The scepter shall not depart from Judah. This is the line of Christ. The Bible is narrowing the focus down. We're going to see it get a lot more narrow as we go through Scripture. But right now, that's the point that we're at. Let's keep going. That's exciting, isn't it? Christ. Verse 13. Zebulun shall dwell at the shore of the sea. Wait, Zebulun? He's number 10. He's number 10. That's Leah's last child. Zebulun shall dwell at the shore of the sea. He shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall be at Sidon. That never happens. Wait, what? His borders are never near Sidon. He's actually landlocked. Whenever Joshua divides up the land, I got to this and I was like, oh, this is exciting. I know where he's going to be out on the map. And I pulled up the map and I was like, wait a minute. This isn't the right spot. So how does that work out, right? Well, scholars for years have been puzzling over this verse. For centuries have been puzzling over this verse. The best explanation is this is the blessing of a father, not quite a promise of God, and his poetry. So what are the things about it that really stand out? Here's one thing we have to notice. He's laying out a specific city in a specific geographic area. It's not Egypt. That city, Sidon, that's at the northern part of the promised land. It's right on the sea, but it's at the promised land. Jacob's focus, even in this part of the blessing, has nothing to do with where his family is geographically positioned at the time. It has everything to do with the promise of God. His hope is still in God's promises. He shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall be at Sidon. Where he does end up, travelers are always passing through him. I mean, his land is covered. If you want to go from one side to the other, you're going through Zebulun. If you're coming in off the sea, often you're coming through Tyre, and you're going to come down, and you're going to come through Zebulun. He definitely interacted with the international community a lot where he was at. Why does it say the ships? I don't know. Issachar, a strong donkey, crouching between the sheepfolds. He's the 9th son, the 5th child of Leah. We get down to Dan, verse 16. This is the 5th son. This is the first son of Zilpah. This is the son of the concubine, or of Rachel's. Zilpah. This is Rachel's concubine, who she gave to Jacob. This is her first son, Dan. This is interesting. He shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Jacob is establishing here that even these less than legitimate sons still get a full inheritance. Isn't that exciting? That's exciting. We can go through all of these. Dan, we see the parallelism again. In verse 17, Dan shall be a serpent by the way, a viper by the path. See that? Super obvious there. That bites the horse's heels so that the rider falls backwards. See that? See that? It's parallelism. It's the poetry that kind of adds the color. Verse 18, a total deviation from the blessing. I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Jacob's focus, his focus never leaves what God is doing. He doesn't get caught up in everything that's happening. He's already talked about the past with his sons, and he's getting ready to do it again. But even though he acknowledges the past and acknowledges some of the trouble and the hardship, and even though that even influences the future, he doesn't take his eyes off of the promises of the Lord. He just referenced the land of Egypt, or the land of Israel. Right? He just referenced it when he talked about Sidon. And here again, he's like, hey, my hope is in the Lord, right? I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Our final thing is my hope is in the Lord's promises. Loved ones, are we caught up in the blessings that come in life? Or are we caught up in the Lord's promises? It's so easy to get caught up in the things that are right in front of us, isn't it? It's so easy. Let's see that play out. Let's skip ahead to verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a spring. His branches run over the wall. Another way to say this, here's how we would say this here. Everything he touches turns to gold. Do you know anybody like that? I had a friend growing up, his name was Logan, and whatever Logan did turned to gold. The dude still needs Jesus. If you think about praying for anybody, pray for Logan. He really needs Jesus. He's not saved at all. But man, whatever he touched turned to gold. That guy could make money breathing. It was amazing to watch. That's how Joseph was. Whatever he did worked, right? In Potiphar's house, in the jail, in all of the land of Egypt, whatever he touched worked, and it multiplied, and it worked well. He's a fruitful bough. Not only is he fruitful, but he's fruitful beyond his containment. Now Jacob looks backwards. The archers bitterly attacked him, shot at him, and harassed him severely. Where do we see that in Joseph's life? Somebody help me out. Who harassed him mercilessly? His brothers. Right? Joseph was harassed by his brothers. What did his brothers do to him? They couldn't speak kindly to him. What did they do to him? They sold him as a slave. And that would break most of us. But look at what Jacob says. He's like, yet his bow remained unmoved. His arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. He recognizes that God's the one who sustained him. God's the one who blessed him even though he was being attacked. Jacob's eyes are firmly on the Lord's intervention. They're firmly on the working of the Lord. Verse 25, by the God of your father who will help you, by the Almighty who will bless you with blessings of heaven above and blessings of the deep that crouches beneath, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of your father are mighty beyond the blessing of my parents, up to the bounties of the everlasting hills. May they be on the head of Joseph and on the brow of him who was set apart from his brothers. He recognizes that Joseph was set apart. He sees that. But he doesn't give him the scepter. Joseph he's not the golden child anymore. He fades after this. His sons take his place. Ephraim and Manasseh, they take his place amongst the sons of Israel. But man, Joseph was so blessed in his life. And why was he blessed? He was blessed by God. What is it that we're hoping in? What is it that we want to see play out in our lives? If you imagine, let's just take a moment and think like, man, if I was one of Jacob's sons, how would I want him to bless me? Would I want to be blessed as the strength of a crouching donkey? Maybe. Do I want to be a ravenous wolf like Benjamin is in the next blessing? What blessing do I want? Do I want to be the fruitful dough that Naphtali gets? Do I want to be, Asher was blessed with rich food and royal delicacies. What blessings, what type of blessing do I hope for in life from the Lord? Do I want a peaceful home? Do I want my kids to follow the Lord? Do I want them to be contributing members of society? Do I want 2.37 kids and a white picket fence in my little cookie cutter suburb? What is it? What is it that I want? Do I want the blessing of being able to do whatever I want so nobody ever has to tell me what to do and I don't have to listen to anybody? Is that my goal? Is that my dream? Do I want to be rich beyond measure so that I can just pick up and fly wherever I want to fly in the world at any moment? I'm hungry for a baguette. I'm going to go to Paris today for lunch. Like, is that the type of, what is it that we dream of? What is it that we think would make us happy? What do our hearts long for and pursue? I would argue that the best blessings come from the Lord, and they come from his promises. The best blessings are going to be found whenever we are actively following where he leads us. Loved ones, he has made things for you to do in advance. Peter tells us all about. Psalm 31, Psalm 139 tells us that every day of our lives were written in his book before any one of them came to be. He has got things for you to do. He's got ways for you to bless other people. Is your goal in life to be served or to serve for him? What's your goal? What drives you? How do I get more things? How do I get more stuff? How do I get more whatever? Or, Lord, how are you going to use me? I'm going to end with this. So the last point was my hope is in the Lord's promises, right? This week, I got to go to a funeral. And it was interesting. It was an old family friend. He was 38 or so when he died. Super sudden, even though he had a lot of health problems. His time was over, right? He doesn't get to serve anymore. While I was there, I was talking to one of my favorite older ladies in the world. She was growing up, she was my pastor's wife. I don't know how old Aunt Dixie is. She's probably 90. I don't know. I can't tell. She's ancient. She's been following the Lord. It's good to be ancient. The Lord is called the Ancient of Days. It's good to be ancient. She's following the Lord, and she's been following him well for years. And as we were talking, something came up, and she told a story. She was like, she was last week, I went into a nursing home, like I do every Tuesday, and I was playing piano for them. 90 years old, her goal, she's got a regular habit of how do I bless other people. She goes, I was playing piano in there. She goes, as I was leaving, one of the residents came up to me and said, hey, are you Dixie Edwards? And she goes, well, yes, I am, right? She's always so polite about it. She's like, yes, I am. And the resident said to her, she said, back when you were on furlough, okay? So right now we're in 2026. She was a missionary. Her and her husband were missionaries in Brazil back in the late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in there, 40 years ago. So back when you were visiting the U.S. at some time in your missions career back in the 70s or 80s, you came to my church. Your husband spoke, and the lady said, and Dixie, you gave me a book. And that was such a blessing. It was so monumental in my life. And Dixie was like, oh, thanks for sharing that. That's so kind. But when Dixie was retelling the story to me at the funeral, she goes, Andrew, I had no idea. I don't remember meeting this lady at all. I have no idea what book it was, but she goes, isn't that what we do? We just pour out for people and we forget about it. It's not about the glory of being a blessing. It's not about any of that. It's about being used anonymously for the Lord. His purposes are so much greater than ours. If we go through life clinging to our desires, we're going to miss out on a lot. But if we cling to his promises, oh, what a reward. What a reward. Oh, to be a 90-year-old lady, right? Still serving the Lord faithfully in whatever capacity we have. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for your kindness in our life. God, thank you for the way that you are faithful. God, we see it in Judah's life. He was not faithful, but you still chose him. You still used him. God, what a comfort to know that even when we're not perfect, even when we're not awesome, you can still use us in a great way. God, help us to cast the eyes of our heart on your promises and on the things that you desire for us, not just the things that we desire for ourselves. Jesus, we love you. In your name we